All right, so growing up, I spent my fair share of time being grounded. Forgot to do the dishes, no Xbox for a week. Forgot to mow the lawn, you're not hanging out with your friends for a week. Didn't make my bed, let's make it 3 weeks, let's make it 4 weeks. You know what, let's just sell your Xbox to the neighbors and you can figure out something to do. So I know it sounded kind of rough, but I've grown past that, and I've learned how to improve myself from that. But while grounding is a commonly used strategy at home and by parents, now as a future educator, I wonder, is grounding our students something we want to do at school? So if a student doesn't do something we want, do we have them sit out 5 minutes? If they don't listen or they act out, do we make that 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and progress it to maybe they don't get any activity time? Other things I consider are when we continually to reprimand our students, are we teaching them the positive behaviors in the environment, or are we only noticing them in the environment for the wrong things they do and teaching them what not to do? When they are taught what not to do and being seen in a negative connotation, are we making the physical education environment a negative environment? Is this going to limit their ability to have long-lasting love for physical activity if they only see the negatives of themselves? So as a future educator, these are questions that I hope to be able to answer and be able to approach. And one quote that I think about and how I would approach this in my future teaching is something I learned from a peer at the YMCA. And my coworker taught me to never hold grudges with children or with your students. And when I think of this, holding grudges, I think to myself, I never hold grudges with anybody, especially not my students. I love all my students equally. It's easy peasy. What I learned is that saying you love all your students and never holding grudges is a lot easier said than done. You're going to have students that are going to, you reprimand them for one thing, you turn your back, next second they're doing something else. They keep pushing the boundaries and even have negative feelings towards you. So it's a lot easier said than done. And situations like this reminded me that never holding grudges with students really means that you approach students with no preconceptions. You approach students with no personal biases, and you forget all of the negative aspects that may come across in your mind. Just because they did something 5 seconds ago doesn't mean that they're going to be doing something 5 seconds later. There oftentimes is no contextual connection, and doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a negative student. So another way to describe never holding grudges that I think is maybe more in a positive spin is saying to yourself, I forgot to remember. So I forget to remember the flaws. I forget to remember the blunders that my students may have. We all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. And realize that while you may have a kindergartner who throws a frisbee and hits somebody in the head, and you're just over there just about to moan and groan, think to yourself, how can I learn from this situation? How can I make something constructive from this situation? So take a deep breath and realize that all the negative connotation you can bring to a situation can also include reinforcement. So while the student may need to be reprimanded to learn from the future, remember to bring reinforcement, encouragement, and realize that something so small as a positive comment that you make can help change their behaviors in the future and have real change. And this change isn't just in a one situation basis. You need to remember that we need to come fresh every day. You're going to have bad days. I've had days where nothing will work. You need to be able to refresh yourself and remember today's a new day. And you're going to be able to build much stronger relationships with your students and really keep your sanity as a teacher. So in closing, while there's a lot that I want you to maybe forget about students that you really can't stand, The positive influence we can have on students will never be erased. And these are things that I think are important to building that love of physical activity and strong relationships with our students in a physical education setting. Thank you.